I call the Honourable Member Julianne Genter.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker.
Tēnā koe.
Te whare. Mr. Speaker, as the Green Party spokesperson on justice, I am pleased to rise and follow my distinguished colleague David Clendon, take our second call on the Corrections Amendment Bill. As my colleague has already noted in depth, the Green Party has serious concerns and misgivings about this amendment bill, as it seems to continue the erosion of prisoners' human rights and treat them as subhuman. Mr. Speaker, I've noticed there's a tendency to conflate two different reasons for punishment of a crime. So one philosophy seeks to exercise vengeance on those who've been convicted of transgressing the law. Punishment for the sake of punishment, at any cost, is the purpose of imprisonment according to this view. Another approach is a bit more pragmatic. It asks, how can we best minimize the harm to society that comes from transgression of a law? And how can we prevent it from happening again? This latter approach tries to get the best outcome for the future of our country. These two approaches to crime and punishment are often at odds. If we write off the potential for rehabilitation, if we fail to understand the underlying causes of a crime, if we seek to punish criminals for the sake of it, and if we deny prisoners basic human rights and dignity, we will pay for it. We will pay the cost of having to imprison more people for longer if our justice system alienates those who could have otherwise become constructive citizens. If you fail to treat people with basic human dignity, they will respond in kind. Mr. Speaker, this amendment is very much in line with this punitive philosophy that seeks to punish and control, as opposed to looking out for what's really in the best interests of New Zealand. And I'd like to speak to the increased ability of prison staff to search prisoners. So this amendment bill is removing a requirement that an officer must obtain prisoner manager's approval to conduct a strip search. Not only that, it's extending the ability of a strip search to, and I'm going to read this directly from the bill. So Section 26, subsection 1, paragraph F, it's replacing paragraph F in Section 90, subsection 2. So now a strip search can be required so that the prisoner must bend his or her knees with his or her legs spread apart, bend his or her knees until his or her buttocks are adjacent to his or her heels. And now also, could everyone just imagine what that would feel like? That's my point. It is too much, isn't it? So the authority now allows a prison officer, without seeking approval from the manager, to use additional devices to magnify or illuminate the area that they're examining. I know. Is this not an example of treating prisoners as subhuman? Do we really think that that's going to stop people from trying to bring in contraband? In fact, why must we have these additional provisions and ability? Well, if it's the case that, according to the previous minister in April 2012, new laws targeting drugs and contraband, cell phone jamming, and other provisions at New Zealand prisons, increased vigilance by corrections staff, have made it much harder to get drugs into our prisons. The low number of positive drug tests show these initiatives are working. So why do we need to enable people to go even further and deeper into prisoners' bodies, to search their cells, to open their mail? Mr. Speaker, it also invites abuse, particularly when we're looking at the private sector. There have been numerous psychological studies, notably the Stanford prison experiment, which showed that our behavior is malleable. Whether we're prison officers doing the very difficult work, or whether we're prisoners, we respond in kind to the behavior that that others expect of us. And so, Mr. Speaker, the Green Party cannot support this bill because it's not in the long-term interests of New Zealand. It's extending the ability of prison officers and inviting abuse So, therefore, we will be opposing. Thank you.
I call Nikki Kay.
Pleased to support this corrections amendment bill. At the heart of this bill